as she introduced me, I thank you. Um, I'm the Assistant Director of Content Technology Strategy. Um, I used to be Manager of Data Engineering. Um, I got today, our framework for discussion today is looking at who CAS is, then talking about the transformational journey, what we had to put forth, and lastly talking about having those that you need to help this journey along and having great collaboration with those that can help. CAS approach to scientific innovation. Many of you here may have heard of ACS Publishing. CAS is a subdivision of the American Chemical Society. We are the actual chemistry database building arm. We have at scale, we do at scale content curation for all chemistry data journals. Where we build if you worked in the chemistry domain, if you heard of the CAS registry number, that comes from us. That's our database. It's a company that's over 100 years old, and that's how long we've been curating content at scale. And we believe we have the best, most comprehensive, and accurate data out there today. But we have bigger goals in mind. We wanted to expand our scientific coverage, and to do that, we had to come up with some way, somehow, to create new databases and new areas of science in 2 years in places where we had 80 years to do, and do the same type of thing. And of course, like everybody else, AI is having a big impact on that. And what we're finding out in our AI initiatives, just like you have, it takes a three-pronged approach to do effective AI. You have domain experts, you have tech experts, and you have content experts. And what that means is you need somebody that understands the data. I say all the time that there's levels to this. I, as a technologist, and y'all see how easy they're lowering the barrier of entry to do AI. And almost anybody can put together an agentic workflow or agentic search and things like that. But in most cases, when I do it, it's data to me, because I'm a technologist. And there's a difference between content and data. And you need to understand what that string means when you go beyond just the technology, the search of it. And for that, you need people who understand what the content is, what a smile string is made of, what a gene sequence is put together. That's what we're saying here. You need those that understand content and domain, those type of things, those that can help you come up with the schema, help you come up with the knowledge graph and express it. And us, technical experts. And I was telling somebody today, the way I survive is I separate the science from the technology. I just came out of a presentation by a phenomenal young man who was both a chemist and a software engineer. But what I found out is that's a unicorn, and that does not scale all the time. But what you can do is find great scientists and pair them with great technicians. And if you do it the right way, you have to scale out your operation. What we want to do at CAS is just like, and I'm going to move on to this, we're starting off with a new paradigm and a new shift in how we want to present ourselves. We used to be a product-driven organization where we present our content to you in a certain form or fashion, but now we're trying to make sure that we can do that through solutions, but also partner with you with opening up your data. Earlier today, I heard another person say there's a big conflict going on. Do you open up all your data, or do you keep your IP secure? And you got to find the balance there. CAS used to be a totally closed organization. Then all of a sudden, we wanted to open up everything. But what this does is allow us to get integrated into your workflow, allow you to integrate your data with our data, and we help the community if we can find a good and responsible way to make it happen. But first, we're going to apply AI operations to our internal operations, then to our customer-facing solutions products, and then through workflow initiatives, you combining your data with our data. That's how we talk about that. Did I go too far, too fast? I don't know. But what we want to start doing over the comprehensive data that we have is opening up lenses. We first started with chemistry, with SciFinder, NSTN, maybe you heard of them. Then we moved into life science for BioFinder. Eventually, we're going to be coming into material science. We're looking at doing that this year. This is a very aggressive approach. And then lastly, customer services integration. We want to set ourselves up to let us know that, hey, curating content, if you ain't heard, is hard. And everybody can get access to data, but garbage in, garbage out. Hallucinations, you have to get it cleaned. Here, we do it at scale, and we add that human element to verify content. And we have good data for you, but if you have data and you don't want to clean it, harmonize it, think about us. Knowledge, scientific knowledge, powers discovery, making R&D pipelines. We've been doing it for 150 years. I'm just saying, trying to get past this. But this is where we want to go. With that change in strategy, we had to change our processes to fit the world and business of today. When you've been in business for 100 years and you are the scientific giant and you are the monopoly, your reputation is built on accuracy. And so you put a lot of processes in place to ensure that accuracy. But many times these things move at a certain pace. And the systems that they were built on were built to last. But when you need to expand, you have to go from thinking like the giant to thinking like a startup. This is what we had to face when it came to our transformational knowledge journey. How do you take people who are, their whole job is being accurate, being meticulous, being careful, and tell them, I need you to move at a pace of business? Where we started, we had these type of problems where we had many content sources. Like I said, we wanted to do for life science in 2 years what we had 80 years to do. The issue with that is when we first started, based on the challenges that you see, inconsistent data across data sources, quality and challenges in early content deliveries, delays in normalized content, what we found out is through our old systems, it took at one time 18 months to get a new source from acquisitions to products. Yeah. Chemistry is a very complex domain, but that was still not acceptable. It just wasn't. In life science, we had to turn around and try to do this in 90 days. That's shocking. You're like, do it in 90 days? Yeah. That's what we had to do. It had, like I said, it was a mindset. But the reason why we had to do it, because you're not when you're the monopoly, everybody has to wait on you. And you're trying to uphold reputations. But when you're in a new area, that's competition. And believe it or not, it's almost easier to be the first in a less crowded domain with less quality than it is to prove you the best in a crowded domain. Everybody, yeah. So what did we want to do? What that means is we had to change our investment to first failure. You have to lower the cost to try because you're going to be wrong. You're going to be wrong 9 out of 10 times. You might be wrong 10 out of 10 times. But it's about how many times do you give yourself a chance to try. In 1 year, if I need 10 chances and you only give me 1 chance that year, I'm guaranteed to fail. But if we can change that and lower monitoring opportunity costs, then build for change, not to last. You need a flexible architecture, a flexible infrastructure, something that's easy to add on to, something easy to, this is different from how we used to build. We used to put a lot of time into NFRs to ensure that what we build is almost future-proof and it will stand. However, if you take so long to build it, haven't you seen if you take more than, it used to be 3 years, but now it's almost 1 year to build something, the technology that you're building on is almost out of date. So we had to lower the time it takes to try and improve time to market. Like I said, we had to get that 18 months down to 90 days. And fail fast. Please fail fast. Everybody talks about and creating an environment that, what is it? The one that says, don't be afraid to fail. And we as leaders say we want to do that. But if you ask those who work for us, they are afraid to fail because there are consequences when they do. But really, it's not that there's, the consequence comes because of the failing. The consequence comes from what was the investment to get to that failure. If it takes a long time to get it, there's a much bigger ramification than if you told me something a whole lot quicker, because I'm always able to learn even from mistakes, but I can't get back time. So what we found out is it's not just technology. We needed to change how we did things, and it was people, process, and technology. And so what we decided was first understand the businesses that you're in and the value that you deliver. We had 2 businesses, and we had to separate them. It wasn't that we was just making products, but our very first business was producing the content. And we had to separate that out and put it on a different cycle than producing the actual application. Doing that, but allowing them to be able to provide feedback one to another was essential for us. Understand the value by which that you are delivering so that you can support the business needs of today and accelerate outdated processing. Processes. We said it was people, processing, technology. I want to stay over processing. Raise your hand in here if you're doing agile. You're doing agile. All I ask is, please remember, keep agility in your agile processes. What we found out, we was doing agile, but the process became the value instead of having the process support the value being delivered. What do I mean? If in your agile processes, the ceremony, the sizing, the benchmarking, the retros, the things to capture the activity is more important than the value, you have a problem. I went to a retro, and they sat down, and they showed me their velocity for an hour. They showed me their velocity. And you know, I turned to them, I said, that was wonderful. But you just spent an hour justifying to me that tech justifying to tech that tech is doing work. Because there was nobody from business, or what they showed them, they did not put it in their hands in an incremental fashion. Not saying that you're not doing incremental things, but usually your relationship with business is still very waterfall. You ask them to give you specs, you hand it off to them, and then they agile process, work on your specs, and then y'all work out when y'all gonna check in. But if you look at the time to that, that's a big block, and it looks more waterfall. So what we did was we changed the process. Take advantage of your advantage and put your business or your product owner on the team. Don't make them a stakeholder. Make them a part of the team. Make them responsible for delivering, and put them side by side. Put them side by side. Now, when it comes back, that'll be more about the people, but keep these 4 things in mind. This is still gold. Individuals and interaction over processes and tools. It's not the ceremonies, it's about them talking and interacting. Working software over comprehensive documentation. I know that sounds bad, especially if you're in a scientific domain and things like that, but the reality is, any spec that you write, any documentation that you write, the likelihood that the developer is going to go back and look at it, or if it's requirements, the likelihood that it's going to hold true through the end of that development processes are both highly unlikely. How many times have you been given a spec, you went off, you delivered what you thought they asked for, at the end, they did what is called user acceptance testing, right before you post a release, and that person says, this is not what I want. And you put out a paper, and you say, but this is what you asked for. And it does no good, because in the end, we all fail. So, instead of doing that, let's make sure we have customer collaboration over contract negotiation. And the best way of getting to what somebody wants, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. If they're on the team, you can turn paperwork into actually working code and say, I'm going to use prototyping to help you the requirements. Working with scientists, I found out they're a very special type of people. All the knowledge is in their head, but they don't like to write it out all the time because it's just how they do their job. And if they did write it out, it'd be big, big books. So we had to figure out how to get that information out of them. Well, I found out that they might not tell you what they want, but they'll tell you what they don't want. And if you put something in front of them that they don't want, they will begin to talk to you and tell you why it's wrong. Well, guess what? That's your requirement. And you bring that in, and that's how you get to where you need to go. Responding to change or following a project plan. I don't spend a lot of time making a long project plan. I just don't invest in it. I do high-level roadmaps because along the way, if it's more than 6 months, it's going to change. And that should be okay because your platform should be built for change, not to last. Your processes should be built for change and not to last. Okay. This is on the people side. What we used to do in an organization is pass the value around to the people. What we had to do on our side was we said, no, we're going to bring the people to the value. Whatever your job is to support this value, you have to come and sit on the team. And you have to be there day to day. Because that's how we get to talk. That's how I get your feedback. And we got shared responsibility, shared ownership, and shared success when everything works out. I found out, how many people in here know what shadow IT is? Now shadow IT gets a bad name because it's when, like in our area, when a scientist goes off and thinks he's a programmer or hires their own programmer, when you have this big tech organization and they tell this person to code this little thing and they use that and no one has tested it, no one has put it in SDLC, all these things that we do as professional programmers. But this piece of code is probably essential for your production pipeline and you don't even know it. And if it stops, it might stop millions of dollars of operation. But it's not bad, because probably what happened is they went to the tech organization first and said, can you help me? And the tech organization gave them a timeline, and it's like, wait, that's way too long. I could just do it on my own, right? Well, what I found out is the reason why shadow IT works is because it's the closest relationship that a customer has with the programmer. They get to make direct impact. Sometimes it's the same person. So what if we took that mindset, that relationship, and partner our business owner with the tech and say, this is how we're going to interact. I'll be that person that you can ask whatever you want, and we'll try it, and you're impacted. That type of relationship is what really works, because you're talking all the time, you have shared responsibility, you have shared ownership. All these things happen when you put the people together that need to be there. And it gets rid of the blame culture. A lot of things that we do, we spend millions of dollars, I'm just putting that number out there, doing documentation to be able to say when something goes wrong, look, it's not my fault because I did this. When we could have saved millions by just sitting together and talking. This is the type of transformation that I had to go through to push, because I'm trying to go from 18 months to 90 days. It was a totally rethinking. Yeah, it was fun. So once we got to that, you had to bring in the right tool. And this is where MarkLogic comes into play. And even though MarkLogic can do many things, the one thing it does very well is process semi-structured data. And in our world, publishing and chemistry, the majority of the data that you deal with is semi-structured. How much time I got? Oh, the majority of the data you got is semi-structured. And what it is it's a low cost to visibility. I can't fix what I can't see. If you got a lot of this type of data, and the fact that it can handle all other types of data, especially document structure, this was a great increase in speed because it provided visibility just by loading it up. So,
quick question, what's the difference between semi-structured data and unstructured data? I see unstructured data is like facts. You get a copy of the facts, you get a piece of paper, you take a picture of it. That's unstructured data.
semi-structured is just XML and JSON. That's what the majority of us deal with. If that's your data, if you're doing anything using any other type of repository, you're spending 3 to 4 times the amount of money in ETL just to get visibility. Unless you just put it in something that can't search with the precision that it gives you. You know, that time is lost. We don't think about it because we think that, hey, I can take this and put it in relational. That thousands of lines of code that must be tested. And you're doing nothing more than mapping, mapping, mapping. And every time it happens, you have to test it. This one loaded up. I can't say it on video, but I won't say it the bad way. But sometimes the simplest things are just the common sense things. This is where all my money, We had, I said for CAS, we have one of the biggest Hadoop clusters in Columbus, Ohio. And I used to say all the time, we are not big data because of the size of our data. We're big data because of the complexity of our data. We don't have tens of petabytes of data. We got a couple, but that wasn't the problem. The problem was trying to make this XML look like anything other than XML. That takes a lot of processing power because most of the time you're going to do it with a DOM. You're going to have CPU, you're going to have memory. Magnify that times the number of documents, hundreds of millions. That's how much compute power you have to do it just to bring it up to make it something that is not. That's why that was great. Add that with change agility, being able to do multiple things in one place, multiple views. I know we're used to the world of data democratization. If I need this type of thing, I make a copy of the data here. If I need this type of thing, I make a copy of the data here. If I need this type of data, well, the wonderful thing about this on top of MarkLogic, you do data visualization or data virtualization. Hey, if I need it semi-structured, I got access to it. If I want it as a knowledge graph, I can use the TDE, make that representation on the same data. It's just memory. If I need it as relational tables, I can do that. That's where Opti comes in. All on the same data. The good thing about that is I don't have to worry about keeping data in sync. Building added to my infrastructure and ETL. This is very good for when I first start off and I don't have to add this extra infrastructure unless I need it for scaling purposes. But many times, that's not what you need to do right at the beginning. So it added to the speed. And I'm finding out through our applications that MarkLogic is fast. It is. It still has one of the best search engines out there. And I know many people don't, but it's great. It has great performance. So all of that went into play. And what we did was, because of all the capabilities that it had, our old architecture where we used to have multiple repositories, and this doesn't even represent it, is before that dotted line where it says legacy, that represents 86 different types of systems and repositories. That up front, we did curation. And then we had to use one data store for enterprise data hub that we needed to enrich. But we couldn't, but since that was big data and it wasn't good for XML, we had to put it in a different store to add visibility to be able to see it so we can know if we was doing the right thing. This was almost coding in the dark. I had to do a lot of business rules to code it, to see if I wanted it, realize I made a mistake, more coding. And then eventually I would send it to products. We brought MarkLogic in place and says, hey, let's do all of those operations against the same repository, because this is knowledge management. This is the basic capabilities that I need to do. I need to be able to do ingestion. I need to be able to do curation. I need to be able to do search and discovery. I need to be able to query, and I need to be able to enrich. And I can do it all on the same repository, because in this one repository, I have content management, I have knowledge graph capability, and I have a search engine. And then I can deliver it downstream to products. What we used to do was we had this stage gate process. Like I said, we used to pass the value to different places. Well, this 1, 2, 3, 4 used to happen over 5 or 5+ repositories. When we brought in MarkLogic, we was able to bring all of those that needed to approve content to the same place, looking at the same data, greatly increasing our ability to feedback, to give responses, and to approve content. Like I said, on top of that same data, we talked about this before, we were able to do all of these things across the same data store. And this was in our content production. Well, what did that yield? We did a POC at first, and we ended up able to take that 90 days, at 18 months to 90 days. We ran it out live into production. We took that 90 days for one content, and I think at one time we delivered over 8 content in 75 days. And this is bioactivity data, life science data. And made everything available, including biomarker data from 8.3 million primary references available for May Science launch. This was a great achievement to watch the behavior of folks go from, and it's not that they got less responsible. If you're ever thinking your user is not flexible, from a technician, I would take the responsibility to say this. Did I show them that they could take or be more flexible? Because if you only give them one opportunity in 6 months, they have to be very careful with that opportunity. But if I show you that I'll give you I'll give you a chance to correct your mistakes in a timely manner. That's what we had to prove. And once we did that, everybody was willing to not let perfect be the enemy of the good, as long as you give me a chance to get perfect. Oh. Yeah. Now, what this caused us to do, because we had so much success, what we was doing on the knowledge management side, we say, hey, this same technology, these same processes, let's do it for a product, for biofinding. And that caused us to re-platform our new life science offering. But they only gave us 90 days, 120 days, to re-implement something that they had over 8 months to a year to deliver, plus new functionality. It was very, very impressive. But we had a good process. We had a very capable technology, and we had people with the right mindset that said, there's a lot of reasons why we know we should not succeed. But what if we all just try? And we had to go get some help. And that's where our great collaborators came in. Datavid, take this time out. They came in to support us. But they had to buy on to this strategy that we're talking about too. Because they already had their practices and things, they're very professional and stuff like that. But they had to trust us. There had to be a trust. Because they had to believe that if something does not work out, we would not say it's their fault. You know what I'm saying? Because we gave a big roadmap. And they said, as long as we can communicate, we'll work with you. I appreciate that. That's why I put them up here. And we set off. And I want you to know, in 90 days, at one time they said they had 300, I'll make it sound a lot, 300 tasks to do. And if you've been on any agile team, if you start talking like that, and I want you to know they went through it. And on May 1st, at the publisher conference, and this is how nice things were, when I gave this presentation before, it lined up that we released that same day. And I got to sit with them, because some of them worked overseas, but I got to sit with them at the table as we went live. Here's the demo.
I'm Sylvia, and I will be your guide as we explore the BioFinder application together through the eyes of someone who isn't a scientist. So here's how I see BioFinder. It's a platform that helps you discover important information in the world of biochemistry and drug discovery. As you follow along my screen, you may notice some words that may sound unfamiliar to you. Take, for example, ligands. They are basically chemical substance and in some cases even drugs. Now, let's jump into the walkthrough. Even though I'm not a scientist myself, I'll try to put myself in the shoes of a biochemist who's researching a treatment for lethargy. As I am scrolling through the results containing ligands, aka substances, I see that some of the items have a particular icon, which means that they are also registered drugs. Let's look at this one. I see it has been approved in 2023. Next one, unknown approval. Okay, this one looks more interesting. Let's check on pharmacology. I'm mostly interested in how it interacts with the human organism and how it is relevant to the disease I was searching for. Now I have a filtered data set, so I can dig even further and check out more details for this kind of measurements. Okay, this substance seems like a good base for my research, but I want to make it slightly more generic as a structure. So I will simplify a little bit the structure and do a structure search to find kind of similar substances. So I can continue my research by checking out more pharmacology data, browsing through more substances, checking out predicted metabolites, like this one or this one. Okay. Now I will try another pair of shoes and make myself a biologist who studies more closely proteins and how they are involved in various pathways and whatnot. I am interested in finding proteins in relation with another disease. This one. Oh, proteins. Again, my interest is in the human organism. So I am selecting that one. And now, as I am scrolling through the results, this one catches my eye. So I can read all the details for it. I can browse through various 3D representations of the protein and even interact with it as I need. And furthermore, I can check on the pathways in which my protein is involved. I can see all of the hierarchical pathways, all the hierarchy, and I'm going to select this one, the stress-associated pathways. I see it has more chains of reactions, and I can dig into further details by finding out information such as the in molecule, the out molecule, and all of the references, and I can navigate even further. This looks like a very interesting protein, so I'm thinking to widen my search and actually start a sequence search based on it. So I'll go back, and as I've copied the sequence, I'm searching for other proteins only, and I can trigger a sequence search. Sequence search is usually that it's happening in the background. I have previously run this query, and now I can see its results. And check out other sequences which are relevant to my query. And even again find my original protein with which I started. I hope you enjoyed your tour through BioFinder. Thank you.
Most of this was added in the first, not most of it, a great portion of it was added in the first 120 days for the May release. And then since that time, we added sequence search and integrated into platform. We added pathways, visualization. Coming next month, we'll be adding agentic search, and where you're just in all of this across the MarkLogic platform that we will be enabling. This is our journey. This is what it materialized to. We think we did. I'm very proud of what was done. Most of all, I'm thankful for the technology, of course, and processes are okay, but it's really the people. And sometimes you got to help. We got to help each other. And watching the transformation of mindsets was one of the greatest things that I got to experience. We had one guy, just to say this, and then I'll end my demo. He was one of the most meticulous scientists that we had. He was the previous product owner for BioFinder. He was very, very strict on his agile practices, his requirements, his testing, how QA was done, and the approach that you should take in tracking things. We went through this process, and he was there day to day, working and seeing how hard tech worked for him. Tech got to see how willing he was to have conversations about what success looks like. That when it was time to go, he looked at what he had, and we got to the date, and he turned and said, hey, a person who would have said in the end, no, we got to do it all. He said, hey, I think we should roll the dice on the release. I know you're saying, well, why? That don't sound good. Look like no, it's a difference. Because now he got to do what empowers business and product owners the most. He had enough information to evaluate the value he had. It wasn't a black box to him. He knew what he was giving up. He knew what he was getting. And he weighed the risk. And he said, I got all of this, and my facet don't work, or this, I'm just being the real process. I can't say it, I ain't gonna act like everything was perfect. But watching him being able to make those decisions, because he knew that if he rolled out today, within 3 days, he would have the rest of his functionality, because he was taught that it would. So that's my presentation today. I think that's it. Are there any questions? Well, I hope it's not because I'm intimidating. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But we're just about out of time, or we are out of time.
I mean, I cannot.
Ask a quick question. Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So great presentation. Wanted to kind of pull the thread on. I've never heard a technology person say they loved shadow IT. So kind of how do you kind of inspire innovation and keep people trying to do the thing they need to do without getting 20 different instances of SharePoint or something like that?
Let me say that the right way. It's not that I love shadow IT. I love the interaction that shadow IT emulates, the relationship between the developer and the product owner. My problem with shadow IT was you were doing this with people who were not professional developers. But sometimes they don't feel they can get that relationship with the professional developer. But what if they could? Now, I'll just say this. I can tell you easily how to turn every seasoned developer into someone who, getting exactly what you want, getting the behavior that you want. It's just simply this. Tell a developer, it's not that you got to deliver it to me. Do a spike. You got it? You see? If you tell a developer all he has to do is do a spike, he will do the behavior that you want. He will go quickly, make the most business value, take your requirement, you don't even have to write it down. Tell me what you want. He will quickly go develop something and put business value in front of you. That's all you really wanted. But you took all the expectation out of them because you said, oh, it's just a spike. What AWS, this is one thing, let me say this. Too many times we don't take advantage of what AWS and these type of things give us. We're still trying to code like it's 15 years ago. AWS and MarkLogic take care of a lot of the NFRs for you and make it very flexible. We used to have to do all that analysis up front because we had to get the NFRs right. It's infrastructure as code. You can tear anything, you're not pouring cement, so any mistake you make, you can blow it away and redo it in a day. So you don't have to spend as much time on the NFRs and get directly to the functional requirements because you want to get business value in front of the customer so they can make decisions and give you feedback. That's the relationship. And that's how, and you can still put your standards around those things, but that feedback loop you want to lessen and get that close relationship.
More questions? Catch Rodney in the reception.
Thank y'all.